Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of the Football Experience brought to you by On The Pod. The regulars, Caleb and I, we're here, as always. How you doing this weekend?
Yellows. I'm doing all right. Just finished watching up all of the weekend's action, so I'm ready to talk some football because that's why we're here. So let's do it.
Sounds like you watched a little bit more than I. I watched pretty much the important matches. But before we get into that,
They're all important, Nev. They're all important.
they're all worth 3 points. Well, they're all battling for 3 points. But before we get into that, I woke up about half an hour ago, right? As you can probably tell, and pretty much like 10 minutes into like me, you know how it takes you like 20 minutes, half an hour to actually properly fully wake up. And like 10 minutes in, I get a phone call. I'm like, oh no, who could it be? And I'm like, well, I ordered some football boots, and like here the like the courier or post or whatever, they call you to make sure that you're home. I don't think they ever do that in Australia, that they call you. I think they just tell you, oh, we're arriving.
No, they just either knock and then they leave the package on the doorstep.
Yeah, with a note.
Or take it back with them and leave you the note.
Yeah. So like these guys actually call you, and then like you can tell them, oh look, I'm at work, or I'll be home around this time, and then they actually come when you're actually home. I'm like,
oh, that's sick.
Yeah, I'm just like, well, I'm expecting a package. Maybe it's the post just to make sure I'm going to be home, like in wherever. But no, it's bloody telemarketer from my mobile company to tell me that my phone bill is going up by like $1. and then like she has to, and she says that I'm gonna get upgraded from like 6 gigs of data a month to like 40 gigs just because it's going up by $1. So I'm like,
win.
Yeah. So she has to go through all these terms and conditions. I'm there. I hear pretty much that statement. I'm like, okay, it's going up by $1. I'm getting 40 gigs. It's not some special offer where it's like $1 extra for like 2 or 3 months, and then it goes up to like $10 extra after that. She's like, nah, look, like because you've been a loyal customer, blah blah blah. And then like she just goes through these terms and conditions, and like I'm fluent in Croatian, but when you speak super super fast, like I only catch words here and there, especially when you're talking technical terms. And I'm just like, yep. So hopefully I didn't sign like an organ away or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you sell a kidney? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, because I also had to like do like the ID verification where like I had to give my date of birth, and also I had to give the ID number on the national identity card that I have as well. So
oh no.
Yeah, hopefully I'm still sitting here come next podcast. No like fresh cuts, still fully organed Nev. So yeah,
watch this space. And that was story time with Nev for the week.
that was story time with Nev. So now that we've gotten off to a good start, we can now go into the bad start. Well, at least bad for me, good for the United fans. We can go through the. I'll go through it first, and then I'll get your thoughts. I'll just see what points you agree with. I was thinking about it like last night, what I was going to talk about, and like how I was going to talk about it. So I'll just go through it from like beginning to end, and I'll just take certain points, and I'll give my thoughts on them, rather than like saying the whole match overall. And then so basically the first 10 minutes. United were on top of us. Like they came out much more ferocious than what they came out against you guys, which was I was just sitting there for those first 10 minutes. I was like, okay, this is worrying. Like we've come out slow, sort of on the back foot. They've come out on the front foot. They're attacking, but I don't think they had an actual shot on goal, but they were creating problems in those first 10 minutes. And then I was actually worried. I was like, damn, they look good. Like, what's gotten into them? Like, what have they eaten for breakfast? And then I think it was around the 15-minute mark where we scored that disallowed goal. And my thoughts on that. So, firstly, I watched the post-match interview with Arteta, and he said, how can Mings not give away a penalty, and how can we not get called? How can the goal against Aston Villa not be called, not be disallowed on with the foul on the goalkeeper. So how can those two incidents not be called? But this gets called. A challenge in the midfield, which after looking at it again, like it was side on. It wasn't in the back. It was side on. Shoulder to shoulder. Yes, Odegaard didn't get the ball, but like you can look at incidents in the past. One of them was I looked at the first Brentford goal against United. The Brentford player goes in behind on Ronaldo, doesn't get the ball, but the player in front gets the ball, and then they score immediately from that. That doesn't get called. That doesn't get reviewed. And then you go to the Champions League last year or last season. I think it was the second goal that when Benzema tackled Donnarumma. We discussed that he didn't get any of the ball. He got all leg, and that's not called. So how is this a midfielder getting punished for trying to turn in the middle of the field, getting pretty much shoulder-to-shoulder tackle, and then obviously it leads to a goal? How does that get overturned, but then these incidents don't get overturned? Like I've mentioned four now that either didn't get called. That I mentioned four that didn't get called right now, and I just don't get it at all how that does. And that's not me being like an Arsenal fan. That's me being a football fan. How there's just no consistency in the officiating. And like I said, Eriksen should be punished for trying to turn the midfield like that and being blindsided by Odegaard as well. So that's my thoughts on that decision. Also, the whole basis of it is it really clear and obvious? Was it a clear and obvious error? I don't think it was. I don't think it was at all. So that's my thoughts on that. And that pretty much changed the complexion of the whole second half, because after that, United seemed a little bit, even though the goal was disallowed, they seemed a little bit stunned or taken aback by that. And after that, Arsenal started to play on the front foot. We started to actually dominate the ball and started to create some chances. And then pretty much against the run of play, United score. The goal, I got to say, it was lousy defending by Zinchenko. I don't think that goal happens if Tierney is defending. And I've seen Zinchenko at Man City. I saw it last season. I can't remember against who, but I saw him make the same mistake where he plays left back and he tries to come in to cover or help cover the centre back to not isolate him in a one-on-one. I can sort of understand it, but at the same time, it's Marcus Rashford. It's not his area of strength to try and beat a player one-on-one on the edge of the box. And he would have had to turn around, and Gabriel hadn't covered anyway. So I don't know why Zinchenko is coming in there to try and create a 2v1 situation and leave his winger isolated. So that is a defending error. And like I said, if Tierney plays, I don't think that happens, because Tierney doesn't have the tendency to come inside and help out his centre backs like that. He'd rather cover his, especially in situations like that, he'd rather cover his winger. In breakaway situations where like you're actually tracking back, and then fair enough. But in those areas where your defense is pretty much set, he doesn't come inside. So that's an error in defending against the run of play. And then, Arsenal, they keep on keeping possession of the ball, keeping creating chances. Going into the second half, pretty much up until their second goal, like especially those first 15 minutes of the second half, that for me that was like pure domination. I think even the possession stat was like 85% to 15% in those first 15 minutes. United could not get close at all. We scored the goal, and then naivety kicks in where we think it's Aston Villa or Leicester or Fulham again, where we cop the goal and we can play with a high line, play on the front foot, and go for the attack and go and win. So naivety and a little bit of inexperience kicks in, and we get caught on the counter on the break and go down to 2-1. And the United goals, they're isolated moments of brilliance rather than like a 5 or 10 minute spell of them actually being on the ball. It's just like it's just again it's a counter attack. It's a moment of brilliance, great pass, and that leaves us shell shocked. And the changes that Arteta made, I think again they were the wrong changes to make. He should have bringing on 3 subs at the same time completely ruined the shape and balance of the team, and that's what obviously led to the third goal. Had he have just brought on Nketiah, had he have just brought on one player, had he brought like Nketiah, that probably would have been fine. But I'm trying to remember back as well, like when he made those changes against, I think it was against Fulham.
Because we spoke about this.
But when he made him against Fulham, he brought on Tomiyasu for Ben White. So he brought on a right back for a right back, and it was an attacking right back. So that's a like-for-like replacement. And yes, he changed the shape, but he changed it sort of differently. Like he didn't bring on any like-for-like replacements. He just brought on like all these attacking substitutes in this instance. Whereas he brought on like an extra striker, fair enough, but he brought on right back for a right back. So he didn't tinker with the shape too much. And I heard some of the pundits saying, especially the United pundits, they were saying like he did it after 20 minutes, like with 20 minutes to go. Alex Ferguson, he used to throw the kitchen sink in the last like 5 minutes. So he'd keep the same tactics, same formation going up until like the last 5 minutes. We're like, okay, we got to go for it now, not with so much time to play. So that was a little bit of naivety, a little bit of inexperience. Also, bringing Ronaldo on into the centre for United, I got to say that actually helped lead to the third. I don't think Ronaldo was on for the second goal, but it helped lead to the third goal because Rashford was out on the left, and Sancho wasn't seeing any of the ball against Ben White, but Rashford's pace absolutely done Ben White in. So, and I don't think the third goal happens if Tomiyasu's on. So had he have made the change to bring Tomiyasu on at 2-1, I don't necessarily think the third goal happens. But yeah, again, and then the last 20 minutes, like we're playing out of shape, out of formation. We've lost our heads, and yeah, it doesn't look good. But yeah, it was like 60 minutes of Arsenal being on top. Couple of moments of brilliance, a little bit of naivety thrown into that. Yeah, it was disappointing because it's more disappointing when you play well and you create a decent amount of chances and you still don't get the result. So I know I have empathy for you as a Liverpool fan, because I know that you guys create heaps of chances, but you don't necessarily always get the result. Like sometimes you get your draws, sometimes you get your losses. So, yeah, it's a disappointing.
Sometimes you get your wins like midweek against Newcastle, though.
Yeah, it
evens itself out over the grand scheme of things.
But the thing is, it's not worrying. It's not necessarily worrying because we played well. Had we have played poorly, it would be worrying then, because it's the first top 6 team that we're versing, and we absolutely crumble. I don't think we crumbled. I think it was overconfidence that led to those mistakes and the way we played. Hopefully this will be a reality check for us now, and then we can bounce back this weekend, hopefully. But yeah, I want to get your thoughts, see where you agree, see where you disagree on my little rumbling, my little monologue.
Well, I pretty much agree, even though you came in so passionately as you would when you feel aggrieved at the decision. But I agree with pretty much everything you said. I mean, the one thing I could maybe disagree with a little bit is that you can give that as a foul. That's not like a nailed-on no foul.
Yeah.
But if the ref wanted to give the foul, he could have given the foul in the moment. So, and the thing I totally agree on is Eriksen should have been punished for turning so lackadaisically straight into midfield, not knowing what's at his back. How can you do that as a midfielder of his experience? Eriksen was hugely hit and miss in the game because obviously he did that, had that moment, and probably should have been punished for it, and team goes 1-0 down. But he also has the moment where he finds Bruno Fernandes in between the lines for the first goal, and that completely opens you guys up. I mean, so in terms of the decision, I agree. It doesn't. It's two things as well. Like they're talking about increasing the threshold for physical contact. Well, if you want to do that, that really needs to be let go. And they want to increase the threshold for looking at things on VAR. And for me, there's no way that you should be going back and having a look at that because that's not clear and obvious, like you say. So, and then your point about it being the first goal in the game, naturally, that just means that, you know, when you imagine the game in a different way, it could have happened any number of ways if the first goal goes differently. So, but that's all ifs and buts, really, isn't it? Then the point on the first goal for United, I don't know if it was like, for me, it wasn't totally against the run of play. You guys had finally got back into the game after that 15-minute spell by United. I think they came out in a similar way against Liverpool as well, to be quite honest. But you know, they're using the intensity of the ground, which is great to see because Ten Hag looks like he's cottoned onto that. It's not about the tactical game; it's about the emotional game at the moment because they sort of lack the quality in key areas at the moment. When I look at the lineups, I actually thought going into the game, United look like maybe a little bit more advanced, but they look in a similar position to where Arsenal were last year. Still missing a striker, which Arsenal were, but now they got exciting attacking players around that area that when they do get a striker, I think will benefit. But, you know, if Rashford finally starts playing like a £250,000 a week player, like he has been recently, then you know what, maybe they don't need a striker. But yeah, I thought the goal, and that's what you get with Zinchenko as well. Like, I guess we were all caught up in how good he's been in possession, and I thought he was important in this game because Lokonga was such a passenger in possession. They didn't really want to give him the ball too much at all, and Zinchenko would have to go in and play into that midfield area because they wanted someone who they could trust with the ball in that area. So in terms of your in possession play, he was really important for that. But when you can push him back to have to defend defensive situations, that's where he can get caught out because for all intents and purposes, he's a number 10. He's an attacking midfielder for Ukraine. So, and that's the way he's been brought up, but he's been converted into a left back in recent seasons and is really good when a team has the ball and has sort of territory and can play into him in those midfield areas. But if you can make him do the traditional duties of a left back, then you can expose him a bit, and that's what you see for the first goal. Also, there's an element of luck because if I remember correctly, Bruno Fernandes takes a bit of a heavy touch in there, and Lokonga feels compelled to go in and try and win the ball, and then it opens up the space for Rashford to receive it there on after. So, you know, these things need to break your way. I thought this game was it was one of those games where I thought it was pretty 50-50. I agree that 15-minute spell after the break was the most dominant any team was in the game, even comparable to United's first 15 minutes, just a level above that. But then, like you say, you get hit with a sucker punch. Rashford can always do that with his pace. Bruno, who was having a terrible game up until that point, picks out a world-class pass. I don't know how much more Saliba and Ben White could do with that situation. I just think it's a really good ball. Maybe Saliba's body shape and positioning could be a little bit better. I guess at this point he is still a little raw, so maybe that's something that could improve. But it's a really good pass to open them up there.
Just on that, also,
yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, the ball, Ben White actually does make the challenge, and the ball takes a bounce over the goalkeeper. So it was either going wide or it was just going low into Ramsdale's feet. So even that's an element of luck as well.
Rashford's not the most clinical, and his first touch wasn't very good.
And it was like
in that situation.
I think you just said like the luck broke United's way, and it broke their way a couple of times.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you need in these games. I mean, like I said, that's why I thought if I had to say one team was the better team, I'd probably say Arsenal. But I didn't think the only thing I disagree, and I was pretty happy is not the right word, but impressed and sort of respected the way Arteta came out post match. Most of the things he said, I thought I agreed with. He didn't overly focus on the referees, although he had every right to feel aggrieved. But it wasn't like one of those sarcastic ones that he sometimes gives. He acknowledged that his team played pretty well, but things broke against it. I agree with that. But the only thing I disagree with a little bit is how dominant he said Arsenal were. I didn't think they were that dominant. They were good in the game, and if I had to pick a better team, I'd probably shade it to Arsenal. But I think this United team's pretty good. They don't do it in a way where it's like overly possessing of the ball. They don't do it in this way that Man City and if I had to say anything, they do it more in the Liverpool way than the Man City mould. Where now that he's cottoned on to De Gea not playing out from the back so much, they can target long balls and then they start to play off second balls. McTominay's looking like a world beater at the moment. I said it last week, but the Casemiro effect, he's looking like Casemiro in there, and he was being an agitator in the game. Really set the tone in terms of the aggression in that midfield. Ericsson, like I said, hit and miss. Like sometimes he gets lost in that midfield and he's a bit lightweight. But then when you can get him on the ball and he can get his head up, he can pick passes in there and he can break lines, which is what United really did need. So you give a little and you take a little with putting him in that position. And then I think the front four is the thing. The defense has been good for United between Martinez and Varane. I think that looks like a good partnership. But the front four is the thing that's impressed me most. They look really fluid. The way Rashford's popping up in pockets rather than always looking to go behind, I think he's added that to his game, it looks like, under Ten Hag so far. Bruno's picking up those pockets. It's up to him whether he plays well on the day or whether he wants to moan at referees so much and play act and all that. I would just wish that we could, well, not as a Liverpool supporter, but if I was a United fan, I'd wish that we could see him just put his head down and focus on playing the game. Because when he does play, he's a pretty good player. Sancho, like we said, starting to look like the player that we thought he could be when he came from Dortmund. And now the big thing as well, and there's sort of this track record. I remember Anthony Martial on his debut at United. He scored the go-ahead goal to make it 2-1, I think in front of the Stratford end all those years ago on his debut. And it's just like, for me, if I was an Arsenal supporter, I'd be so annoyed that this guy's coming with all this money and expectation on his head, and we've let him score on his debut. Like, that just elevates all of that pressure off him. If I was an opposition player, I'd be very mindful of, I don't want to let this guy go off. I don't want him to come to the Premier League and think he can play like he was playing in the Eredivisie. I want him to feel the pressure of 90 million euros over his head, and I'm not going to let him score today. And Zinchenko, through his folding defensive ability, it's happened there. So, ultimately, when I take it away, what I take away from this game is, and the last point was the Arteta subs. And I'm pretty happy that you went on that rant because you sort of proved my point from what I said last time about the Fulham changes, where he put Martinelli at left back in that system, and he did the same in this instance. And I said, look, it worked today, but against a better team, I don't know about Martinelli as an out-and-out left back. That seems a bit too adventurous for me. So, and it signals to the team, let's go gung-ho. And I agree, it was too early, because especially as you say, that United goal comes against the run of play. So you've got to think, all right, we've suffered a setback, but in the game, we're playing better than them. So let's just keep playing better than them, keep putting pressure on. If it's our day, if we put enough pressure on, we'll get a goal. And if we don't, it just wasn't our day today. But in making those changes and going so desperate, I mean, it was just the flip side of what we saw against Fulham. It was exactly that. It's like, let's go gung-ho, let's go decisive. All right. But some days it works, some days it doesn't. And this day it didn't work. And United, so the takeaways are, United are right back in this thing. Only 3 points behind you guys. But on the flip side, the takeaway for you guys is you guys are fine. You played fine in the game. You played well in the game. It's just one of those days. And I thought that was a perfectly respectable performance at Old Trafford. And on another day, you would have won the game. So you guys, I don't think any less of Arsenal after this game. And I think a little bit more of United, because that's two big games at Old Trafford that they've showed up for. And they've played well in them. It's not maybe the most pleasing to a lot of people's eyes, but the things that they've done well. And that's been enough to win these games. So, yeah, they're right back in it, but you guys look fine to me.
Yeah, the two things that I guess I'll add before we finish on this game, the way United are playing, it sort of reminds me of the two games against Liverpool and Arsenal that they won. It reminds me of the Solskjaer days, when I think he beat City twice at Old Trafford, where he just pretty much sat back and played on the break, and it was sort of in that similar mold where it's like, okay, we know that we're the inferior team, so we'll just, Rashford is the one that's going to do the damage. It sort of reminds me of that, and the other point is, and I mentioned this to Matthias, and he agreed with me that United are going to struggle against the mid-table and lower-table teams playing like this, and we've seen it against Leicester and Southampton, where they didn't look as they still don't have that dominance or that play style to dominate games and impose themselves yet, and it probably will build throughout the season. So, and they're going to struggle to break down teams that want to sit back and counter on them, like we saw against Brighton and Brentford. And I know that those two performances might be two isolated performances, because they looked like players that didn't even want to play for United, whereas looks like they're actually playing with pride and like urgency and intensity and everything. But it'll be interesting how they continue to trot along against inferior opposition.
I wholeheartedly disagree with that pretty much. Just on terms of what you said about Brighton and Brentford, neither of those teams sat back on them. Brentford got in their faces and pressed, and United played right into their hands. And Brighton, again, are a team who always look to play football. So that first half, Brighton were all over United. The thing that is giving me hope for United is the effort and the desire and if you've got those things, you don't need to dominate in a way that Man City and Arsenal somewhat are. But I do think, obviously, Man City are two levels above United, and I still think Arsenal are a little bit further ahead in their progression as well than United. But United are finally playing with some effort, some desire, some intensity, and some patterns of play. They're not dominating the ball, because Ten Hag understands that he doesn't want players like McTominay on the ball too often. He doesn't want Varane on the ball, Dalot on the ball, even Malacia. He doesn't want all those players on the ball. He wants the front four on the ball. So let's get the ball up to them quickly. And I don't think that they were sort of, if it was easy enough to do that, then why didn't Arsenal go to Old Trafford and just sit back and counter, especially with the weapons that they have up front? But it's not that easy to do that, because I don't think United are getting dominated in these games. I still think they do lack quality in some areas in terms of playing possession football, but I think that's why we've seen them get better results now, because Ten Hag has seen that deficiency and said, well, I don't want the back four and I don't want the goalkeeper on the ball too much. Let's get the ball forward and let's play there. So you can't do it all the time, and it's good that in those moments where they need to defend and they need to counter-attack, they have that option too. So I just look at it on the flip side and think, that's an option for them, but they can also play with this high intensity, much in a sort of Liverpool mold, where they get the ball forward quickly, and then we'll apply our intensity and our press and our fluidity and possession there. So I think they've got options, and I think the thing is, I'm always worried about United on a bad result because of what we saw in the first 2 weeks. How strong is that foundation of the intensity, of the desire, of the effort? How strong is it? Will it remain strong throughout the season? because I was a little bit worried with what we saw in the first 2 weeks. But what I've seen in the last 4 weeks in terms of adjustments by Ten Hag and the team has got me more positive. But there's always that lingering doubt in the back of your mind. But I'm a lot higher on United than you are. I'm not saying, like I keep saying, I'm not saying they're better than Arsenal at this present moment, but I think there's steps in these 4 games that I've seen towards being in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree with that point, but I still think that if they continue with this style of play, that they're gonna struggle to break down teams. I don't think that that's their strength at the moment.
We'll agree to disagree. It's just a different way to break down teams.
Yeah. Let's agree to disagree. It's football at the end of the day. People have differing opinions, and we don't always have to agree. So we'll go on to the other big game. Your team, your lovely Reds not playing so lovely. I just want to say one point. Everton actually took the game to you guys as opposed to last year's derby. Not last year, last season's derby at Goodison, where they had a couple of chances on the counter against you guys, but in this game it seemed like they had a lot more chance, and they held possession a lot better as well. And it was a lot. I wouldn't say it was even, but it was a lot more competitive than what it was last season. And I'll let you get onto it before I ask you a question in regards to a refereeing decision. You probably might touch on it as well, but yeah, I'll hand the reins over to you.
Well, I actually kind of somewhat disagree with that because I thought Everton should have taken the game to us more, particularly in the early stages. Because when I saw Harvey Elliott and William Carvalho in the midfield, either side of Fabinho, I'm like, if they can make this an up and down game, if they can make it a physical game, they can easily get the better of those boys in there. And that's what you expect a derby game to be. So, look, the way it panned out, their game plan worked, and I thought they were more adventurous probably early stages of the second half. But then I think Liverpool have this tendency to do it, and I think it shows their fitness level where they finish nearly every game this season strong for the last like half an hour. When you think back to the Palace game, you think even back to the Fulham game, you think to the Newcastle game, the last half hour of all those games, even the United game, they came on stronger. So I think the fitness levels are a positive sign, definitely. But I thought in the early stages, Everton probably could have taken the game to Liverpool a bit more and just made it that sort of frenetic game that would have been hard for a Carvalho and an Elliott to deal with. Look, where I predicted a draw going into the game, so I'm not really surprised. Like I keep saying with this team at this moment, it is white knuckle time. It's you got to just hold on for dear life until we can start getting some reinforcements back. Which I think I read Henderson's out for 3 weeks. That midfield's just super light. We've said it all season, but I think it's time that we just. I don't know. It depends if these reinforcements can come back quickly and how good we look after the reinforcements. But if they can't do both of those things, then it's time to start looking at this team is not a title challenger, it's a top 4 challenger. And if you judge them on that grading scale, they're a pretty good one. They're a strong contender for top 4, no doubt. But they're inconsistent. They have moments in games where they're inconsistent. They're lightweight in midfield. They're a completely new front 3 that aren't clicking just yet. And it's like, how much can you expect that they click straight away? But, you know, it's not there yet. They're not free-flowing. They're not scoring, and they don't defend to a title-challenging standard. So it's everything's pointing to me. I'm sort of resigned to it until I see otherwise, that this season is all about mounting a strong top 4 challenge because there's a lot of good contenders for that top 4.
Yeah, I still think it's early, and like what you mentioned, it's a little bit of a danger that you guys have, or a little bit of risk that you guys have with so many midfielders out. And if you rush them back too early, then they could be out for the whole season. And that's the danger with bringing back injured players. So it's a balancing act. Yeah, you guys didn't do any business in the midfield, and that was in the summer, and that was disappointing. Like you needed to bring in one or two sort of fresh midfielders, and you brought in Carvalho, but isn't he like 18, 19? Like he's raw. He's not fresh. He's raw. So you guys really need, and you brought in Arthur Mello at like right on deadline day. But are you excited by that? Do you think he'll add anything to it? Like, it's surprising that you guys didn't reinforce that midfield at all.
I think they blew the budget on Darwin. So a lot of what happens depends on what he can do this season.
Did you hear the story about that with Benfica when they heard that you guys came in with was it 70 mil?
Go on, what's the rest of it?
Yeah, like when you guys came in with your offer with 70 mil, they thought that they hit the jackpot, and they the whole board just started laughing amongst themselves because they're like, this guy isn't even the best player in the academy or in the team.
That's not real.
I heard that.
Real,
yeah, it's real,
man. Bringing up memes as a source.
But like, man. I don't know. He hasn't hit the ground running like Haaland has. Everyone expected.
The history of the Premier League has hit the ground running like Haaland has.
Everyone was expecting, like, everyone was building, or at least the news outlets were building that, like, Haaland v Nunez, like, as if it was like Cristiano Ronaldo versus Messi back in La Liga when Ronaldo first came to La Liga. They were building it up to that, especially after Nunez, he scored in the Community Shield as well, and Haaland like missed that sitter. So like everyone was, and now like the roles are completely reversed. But yeah, I think your midfield is your biggest concern. Also, the fact that Salah still isn't Salah yet. He still seems hesitant. I think that's the best way to describe it. Also, I mentioned this. I want to get your thoughts on whether Van Dijk should have been sent off or not. You would have seen the challenge, I'm guessing.
He could have been sent off. That's what I'll say. I would go with the on-field decision. I didn't think there was enough to overturn it.
Did he even get a yellow for that?
Yeah, he got a yellow for it.
Because there's precedent there for him getting a red card. Because if I remember correctly, I can't remember who it was against, but Aubameyang got a red card for a similar sort of tackle like 2 seasons ago, and he was the captain of Arsenal as well. And it was like that. It was a tackle where you're going studs up above the ankle, on the I'm not sure whether that was on the planted foot, but this was on the planted foot as well, if I'm not mistaken. So there's precedent there for that to be a red card. A lot of people were saying it should have been a red card. So, yeah, I'm just your thoughts on that. Like you think it wasn't?
It is what it is. It wasn't given. I don't think it's egregious, but on another day it could have been given as a red card. But yeah.
Yeah, but then it sort of also leads into like, are these big teams getting a little? And I mentioned it last podcast. Are they getting a little bit of protection from the referees with the decisions? Because we saw it in 2 other games where decisions were horribly wrong, and we can touch on that.
What are the other 2? You talking about West Ham, Chelsea?
Yeah, I think that one was a horrible decision.
And what's the other one?
Aston Villa City, where Coutinho wrongly gets called for an early offside.
Oh yeah.
And I can't remember who scored it. Coutinho ended up scoring. Yeah. And because usually because Aston Villa never lost possession, usually they let it run for like another 10-15 seconds to see how it plays out, but it was stopped immediately. Like but would Coutinho have scored that because he was actually waved offside? would he have actually have scored it? Because the Man City defense and goalkeeper would have actually been active.
Yeah, exactly. The City players stopped, and I think the flag went up because he started to turn away from goal. So if it doesn't look like there could be a goal scored in a quick motion, then I think the assistants have been told to put their flags up a bit earlier.
Yeah,
but in this case, he takes it on and he scores, but the City players had stopped. So
yeah, I don't think that one's egregious. I think the West Ham Chelsea one was completely wrong, though.
But it was wrong on every level. It was wrong. Yeah.
However, I heard Souness explain it from an interesting point of view, where if you don't look at the trailing leg is fine because there's no danger there because he like the trailing leg, he makes contact with his laces. He mentioned that it was his other leg, his right leg, that you need to focus on because that one was studs up and that was endangering the goalkeeper. I also heard a referee.
Did he get sent off for it?
No, but he did, I think it was more that he was showing his, because he never touched Mendy with his studs, but I think it was because he was showing his studs. But still, you never make contact with that, so that's bullshit. Like, what about all the tackles in midfield where the studs are showing?
Yeah, no.
I still think that was a horrible decision. Then it's that whole notion, and I heard them talking about that. I can't remember on what show they were talking about, where goalkeepers, I think it was Foster. He was actually talking about it, Ben Foster, where he was saying that goalkeepers are, and at least in recent times, they're starting to like go down and fake injuries because you need to play with a goalkeeper always. So then the ref is inclined to stop play. So they even goalkeepers now have started to like fake injuries and play the referee or play the rules, which is, again, it's bullshit and it's cheating, because we also saw it last year in United Arsenal where De Gea gets tackled by, I think it was by Maguire or by one of his own players, and he gets injured, and Emil Smith-Rowe scores, and he scores just before the ref blows the whistle. But it's like, but in that instance, it was your own player that injured your goalkeeper, so why should the opposing team get punished? In this instance, I thought that this is like minimal contact. Like, he pretty much dragged his foot over Mendy's shoulder. He tried to avoid him as much as he could have. He didn't stamp him. Had he have stamped him, fair enough. He didn't even stamp him. Minimal contact, dragged his foot over his shoulder, and that never should have been called for a disallowed goal. I don't care about that rule about the goalkeeper always having to be active. That's nonsense to me.
I don't know. I've never heard that rule before, so if that's a rule, they need to change that.
Yeah.
They need to change that pretty quickly because goalkeepers just can't go down like this. And I think it just goes back to that injury idea, especially with head injuries. If someone goes down with claiming a head injury, they need to be examined. That will take 10, 15 minutes. Go and do it. Enforce it. Don't let them back on the pitch. If they're claiming head injury, don't let them back on the pitch for that 10, 15 minutes. Otherwise, get on with the game, because we can't have people faking these head injuries. And you're right. Sometimes defenders do it. I know Newcastle last season at Anfield, I think, conceded a goal because one of their defenders went down, and Mike Dean said he got hit in the shoulder, not in the head. And I think on replay that was probably right. But defenders love that move as well. Defending a corner, just got flopped down to the ground and make sure the game stops. So, yeah, and I want to see more teams just play on. Put the onus on the referee. Don't put the ball out of play. Just keep playing. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit more. And, I think if you start conceding goals from bullshit like that, then pretty quickly players are going to learn to stop doing that. I think that's the line we need to take. If we need to concede, if we need some teams to concede some stupid goals, let's just do it, because this can't keep going on.
I saw it in the Arsenal game where I think once Bruno went down, And then once he saw that he wasn't getting got the foul, and once Arsenal just kept on playing. And I've seen Arsenal do this a couple of times this season where they just keep playing. They don't put the ball out of play.
Yeah.
They're just like...
Yeah, I think the best...
They're just like, F you, like, the ref can stop the play. We're not putting it out.
Yeah.
Like, because...
Yeah.
And like you said, teams should get punished for... Especially when it's these players that are, like, known for faking injuries. Like, Bruno is known for it. I think there was also a moment where Rashford, he tried to fake an injury, and then the ball pops back out to him, and he gets up. And even the commentator said, "Oh, he miraculously got back up, like it's a miracle." Like, yeah, it's bullshit. Like, and I think players should actually start getting booked retrospectively for that. Like, if the ref sees, okay, you've been down for like a minute, and then you straight away get back up and do like a 30-yard sprint. You tried to play me. Like, you tried to play the referee. You basically tried to cheat. You should be booked for it. Like, it's unsportsmanlike conduct. And you can get booked for unsportsmanlike conduct. So why aren't they starting to book these players that are actually faking injuries?
Yeah, just to finish this ref rant, I think the best course of action would be for managers to just go to the opposition manager before the season even. Just send out all these clubs an email and just say, we will not be putting the ball out of play because the worst thing about that instance is when the other team feels aggrieved that they've conceded a goal, or they have to go in and tackle like stupidly because they're like, hey, you should have put the ball out of play. It's just like, that's when like the game starts to like, it's not about the football anymore. So if you just tell the opposition, we are not going to stop playing until the referee stops the game, or if we can see it's a serious injury that the referee hasn't seen yet. But other than that, we will not put the ball out of play. So if the other team want to get up in arms about that, it's like, we told you before that we're not going to stop playing. So I don't know. I just think that will be the best course of action. Let's just get on with playing football. But to go back to the West Ham Chelsea decision, it was wrong, obviously, for the reasons that we mentioned, but it was wrong because Chelsea were damn awful in this game. They were so bad, and I cannot believe that they walked away with a 2-1 win, because West Ham are not very good this season, and they have not impressed me yet. And they were outplaying, especially in the second half. They were outplaying Chelsea. The first half, both teams were just feeling each other out. And then the second half, it looked like Chelsea were just going to lose that game. And I know I sent out my message about Kai Havertz, and he's scored in this game, which somewhat annoys me because I didn't think he was very good in the game anyway, but he gets a goal somehow. So we'll see if his confidence picks up from that, because they need him desperately. But Chelsea, I'm annoyed that they won the game, because somehow they're above us in the table, and both teams haven't been impressive, but I think Chelsea have been thoroughly underwhelming ever since their performance against Tottenham at home.
Yeah, I think there was also a decision in the Newcastle game, but I didn't watch the Newcastle game. I didn't catch the highlights, so I'm not sure.
No, we got to get off refs, man. We got to talk about the football.
Yeah, like I feel I've already mentioned this a couple of times. I think we could quite easily keep like a book of decisions that they got horribly wrong, and then just do like a whole episode, like a referee's review, and we go back, sort of like one of those like court things, like where you go into court and you're like, okay, at 2:55 p.m. in the 75th minute, this incident happened. Like, you could easily just like list off, like, I think over the season there'll be like over 100 ones that like are completely wrong. Like, they're not even 50-50, they're just like completely wrong. And like, but this weekend seemed like there was almost one or two in every single game, and like big ones as well.
The game's scrutinized, and everyone has an opinion on the game. So I don't know how much it's just the coverage around that makes it seem that way as well.
I reckon get rid of VAR.
This many.
Keep it only for offsides, because offsides are black and white. That's easy. Keep it only for offsides. Get rid of the whole. Oh, you should go look at the screen. No, get rid of it. Like, honestly, just keep it for offsides, and that's it.
Well, given that you want to keep the theme of ranting going, I'm gonna shift the pace and go to a few rants that I had. Then I remember this because of the Chelsea West Ham game. I'm not enjoying like the overall product of everything around the game and like the commentators at the moment. So the pundits before the game, I don't listen to any of that shit anymore. They're terrible and they're all saying the same things and I'm just sick of it. The commentary, the one that really got me, and it keeps being said, I think it was Don Hutchinson, and it was commentating on the Chelsea West Ham game, and they were talking about Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And he's just like, well, he just needs to put it all together. He's got all the talent in the world. And I'm like, does he have all the talent in the world, though? Is he an excellent, outstanding 1v1 player? No. Is he an excellent player who holds the midfield and is disciplined and just gives the ball to better players? No. Is he outstandingly quick? No. Does he use his strength outstandingly well? No. Does he have an outstanding range of passing? No. A fabulous goal record? No. Assist record? No. What is he talented at? What is he so talented at? He's just a big guy who looks the part, but he cannot play football to that level. So what have we been talking about with this guy for so long? So when a player has not played well in years, and we're like, he's got all the talent in the world, I'm good off of that. We don't need to hear that anymore. He's shown that he doesn't have all the talent in the world. The next one as well that I can't stand, the intrusive camera people before the game on players on the pitch and on the managers. When they just stared in their faces for like 30 seconds, it's just like, get out of his face, man. Why are you so close? And why do we need this close-up of him for 30 seconds of him just like awkwardly trying to not look at the camera? It's just like, stop that. Give us like 2 seconds and move on. I don't need that anymore. So I'm good off of that. That's my rant over on the overall production of what's going on. I just watch the football now. All the other shit, it's very average.
They could just use that the FIFA commentary. Just have like a whole have a playlist of like the talking points that Martin Tyler and I think it was Alan Smith they always say, and then after you play maybe 30 to 50 games, you start hearing the same patterns of except they just put a different player name or something like that. But yeah, once you play the game enough, you're just okay, the commentary's starting to repeat itself. So they should just put put FIFA commentary on there, and that's it. But since we're just on the point of pundits, I want to go in on Roy Keane here because for the first time I thought he was he made a stupid comment and he was an idiot, and he was a gloating idiot as well. Where he went in on Arteta's post-match press conference, was like, "Oh, he's not praising United. Take your pill and swallow it and all this stuff." It's like he wasn't making excuses or anything like that. It's Arteta's style to always protect his players, and like you said, he didn't talk about he didn't go in on the refs or anything like that, and. He
did, but he had every right to.
But the thing is, Arteta talked about his team, and he didn't talk about United. He talked about his team, his players, and someone in the comments even mentioned so Ferguson never protected his players in the public eye, but behind closed doors, that's when he went in on them. And he never talked about the opposite. Every manager pretty much does that, where he focuses on his team first, especially post-match. He focuses on his team first, and then maybe later on, midweek or whatever, or the post-match where it's actually in the interview area, not the on-field post-match, because that's straight away. It's 2-3 minutes, emotions are high, you don't want to say the wrong thing. But yeah, Roy Keane went in on it, and I'm just you're being an idiot now, and you're just being you won the game, and now you're being an idiot. Now you're being a sore winner pretty much. So Roy Keane, if I'm ever in London,
fight. The teed up a fight.
I'm not shaking your hand, Roy Keane. you're not getting a handshake from Nev.
Oh man, that's such a non-issue. I mean, managers aren't there to talk about the opposition. They're there to talk about their own
why?
team,
It's why? And he went in harder, and I'm just you're being an idiot.
And I would be the first one to go in hard on Arteta if I saw something I didn't like in an interview, but I thought there was nothing wrong with his interview. It was absolutely fine. And
Yeah,
he's just feeling himself a bit. This is the best moment United have had in probably over a year. So,
yeah. It's let's see how the season finishes, my friend.
ooh, challenge down. It's 3 points in it as well.
Yeah. Well,
was there anything else you saw in the Premier League? Because I'm struggling
no,
to think of anything that noteworthy.
not really. Like I think we touched on all the talking points. Brighton still, no, they lost last week, but like they're still up there in the top four. They got a convincing win against Leicester. Leicester, man, what the hell's going on there? What is
just soft?
But yeah, other than that, like most of the results pretty much went the way they would. Oh, hang on.
Hang on.
All right. Did you see Richarlison in the Tottenham game?
Nah.
Okay, so I think it was like the 88th minute or the 89th minute, right? And Tottenham score. It's 2-1. Tottenham score. Richarlison scores, and he does the shirt off celebration. Goes to the corner flag because I think it's his first goal, and it's at the Tottenham stadium, and he's like celebrating. He takes the shirt off. Obviously, that he gets booked for it, right? Bam! In comes VAR. Offside. goal is disallowed, and then I'm just thinking, does that mean that the yellow card's going to be disallowed as well? Because going back retrospectively, technically the yellow card should be disallowed, but no, I didn't check it after the game, but I can check it now, but on field and like when you know how it comes up just under the clock whether someone's been booked on field, it says Richarlison booked. I'm like, okay, like. He goes and celebrates a non-goal with the shirt off celebration, and he gets a yellow card for it, and it doesn't get rescinded. I can see it here. He has a yellow card to his name. Like, what an absolute idiot! Like I was just like you're an absolute fool. And not only that, like it's not even a winner. Like it's just one to sort of like seal the results. Like it's not even a win. Like if it was at 1-1 and he goes and celebrates like that in the 89th minute or 88th minute, fair enough. I'll give it to you. And then if it's called offside, like it's still funny, but fair enough with that celebration. But 3-1 and you go and celebrate like an idiot like that. Like fair enough, the yellow card stands. Like, good on the ref.
You know how I can tell your team didn't have a good weekend? You're taking joy. Joy they even won the game.
But this was before the Arsenal game as well. Like it was the day before. Like and I watched it. I was just like, you were an absolute fool. Like Tottenham paid 65 million for you to go and act like an absolute idiot like that. Like and make foolish decisions. And he's the type of player to get booked as well. And you know how you know how the 5 yellow cards is an automatic suspension. I'm not sure whether he has one from a previous game or not, but like if this is his second, or even if this is his first for such an idiotic decision, serves him right.
I thought you really think of Richarlison.
No, I think he's a decent player, but he's obviously overhyped, overpaid, and yeah, I just thought that moment was absolutely hilarious. But I will come in on his defense. And it reminded me of our Pickford on Van Dijk discussion. Just because you're going back retroactively with VAR to check something and then like technically play stops, so anything after the fact shouldn't be called. I think we agreed that Pickford should have gotten a red card for that tackle on Van Dijk. So if we're agreeing that Pickford should have got a red card on that tackle on Van Dijk 2 years ago or 3 years ago, then shouldn't this yellow card have been rescinded as well? That's my argument, at least using logic, how it works. But like I said, I'm completely fine with him getting a yellow because it's funny. So,
Mate, the Odegaard decision has scarred you. You just want to go in on the referees all episode.
wait, what Odegaard decision?
In February
Oh,
in
that.
2018,
No,
referees gave this, but now they're giving this.
but this has nothing. Where'd you bring Odegaard from? This has nothing to do with Odegaard.
Because like you've got such a gripe with the referees after that decision to not allow the goal. You're just looking back in all the archives. Oh, that decision was terrible. This decision shouldn't have stood.
No, but honestly, asking you like, should
Look, on
using that argument.
Look, on that topic, taking your shirt shouldn't be a yellow card. Taking your shirt off shouldn't be a yellow card anyway. For me.
Yeah,
I don't know why
it should be. I think it was only introduced like 20 years ago. Like, because I think in the 90s, it was fine. I think it was like mid 2000s that it was introduced. So
yeah, I think it's just silly. Like, if you throw it into the crowd and then we're wasting time getting you a shirt, book them for time wasting. But like, apart from that, it's like, what the hell? You can take your shirt off if you want. Who cares?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That just moots the whole thing for me because I just don't even think it should be a bookable offence in the first place.
And it's not like these players have like dad bods or something, so it's not like it's horrific.
Well, even if they did, like, hey, I'm playing at this level. Look at my dad bod.
like as a straight heterosexual male, like even I'm gonna say, look, like if a player takes his shirt off, like pretty much 99% of players have six packs. I'm like, okay, well. Hopefully, seeing that can motivate me to get off my ass, go work out, and get a six pack
this week, isn't it?
What's that?
That's making taking your shirt off legal again. I think
maybe we can have an argument there. But if you want to talk about like something that I can actually put on TikTok, I've got 2 gossip points.
Oh, go on.
Hopefully, one of them doesn't get like. Doesn't get us removed off YouTube, or at least this video removed off YouTube, because it's a hopefully it doesn't go into like that sort of woke territory.
It's getting woke.
No, it's not. But the first of them is have you heard that Mbappe's new girlfriend is actually trans? Yeah, like that's there you go. That's my missus like sent me it, and then she sent me the article. And I'm like, really? Like
This is also coming from you, who believe that the Benfica board were popping champagne when they got
this if you actually go Google it, like there's actual like articles.
I've seen it, but it's fake, bro.
I don't know, man. Like,
they'd be happy with that deal, though. I'm telling you, they'd be happy with that deal, though. That's a lot of money. Anyway, go on. Gossip point number 2.
Gossip point number 2. Again, it involves Mbappe. So the second one, this one is probably like a complete meme, I reckon. But like, apparently, you know how Pogba apparently was like being extorted for money and all this stuff. Apparently, it's to do with him hiring a witch to put a curse on Mbappe.
Why though? Why was the witch hired?
I don't know, but considering how everything went though. Like, it was probably like one of those reverse curses where it ends up going on the person that wants to be cursed. Because, like, Pogba's been terrible. And also, it sort of just, like...
He's been injured.
It sort of brought me back on the whole point that we have on the France squad. The only thing the only team that can beat France is France. And if there's any truth to, like, this... or any other stories that may be coming out, because like we heard it, like what Benzema was trying to, he actually tried to blackmail. Who did he try to blackmail? Valbuena. Like that was true, and like that could obviously cause the rift, and like that's why Benzema didn't play for France for so long. And yeah, like who knows whether this is
if there's any truth to it, Pogba won't be in the French squad going to the World Cup.
Probably, but
because Mbappe holds the right to veto anyone's selection into the French squad.
He's the French football president.
I think Benzema would be part of that committee.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot of the French. No, we've hit that point already. The only team I can see beating them is themselves. Maybe Brazil on a good day.
Maybe, but maybe the curse like half worked because. Like Mbappe's like being like terrible on penalties, so maybe it was a penalty curse.
Yeah, it's been. Been dodgy on penalties, but
Yeah.
he's still scored a shitload of goals. It still looks a pretty good play to me.
Yeah. All right. Look, let's touch on the other big derby of the weekend. Then we'll go into the Champions League. Oh, then we'll take a break, and then we'll go into the Champions League. You good with that? Sort of gone completely off football topic. Like it's still football, but it's more football gossip. We've let our hair down. So the last one, the Milan Derby, that was an exciting game. You watched it, yeah? Yeah, you managed to get onto it. I gotta say, Tonali looks. Is it Tonali? He looks like a good player. I would love to have him at Arsenal. He looks like a really good and exciting player. So, and I reckon you'd like to have him at Liverpool, especially even before your midfield injury woes. I reckon you would have liked to have him at Liverpool. But yeah, like AC look like the better team. Like they looks like they can hold possession better. They can create better chances. Inter looked, I don't know. They don't look that great to me. I don't know if you believe that or not. But and I think the 3-2. I think the final scoreline of 3-2 was a little bit flattering for Inter. I think 3-1 would have been a fairer representation of the actual result, because 3-2 makes it seem like it's neck and neck, and then like a team just sort of wins it in the 80th or 85th minute or something like that. But nah, this was, I wouldn't say it was necessarily domination, but it was, I think Inter were fairly outplayed for most of the 90, if you'll agree with me on that one.
It's interesting. I do agree with that. Although I thought on another day the game probably could have finished 3-3, because after Dzeko comes on and scores the 3-2, Inter were the team creating chances towards the end of the game. So football works like that, but I thought Milan were the deserving team of winning it. And it's interesting because it hits on 2 points. Inter have now lost 2 games in Serie A, and we haven't even hit the quarter point mark yet. So for them to have already burnt 2 losses, while a lot of teams are still undefeated in the league, that's not a good sign for them. And I saw it in midweek. I think they were like playing, I can't remember. They were playing someone at home, one of the lower teams. And it looked like they were sort of being tactical with their energy conservation.
Inter
they were sort of just Inter in the midweek fixture. AC had to go to Sassuolo and probably could have lost the game on another day. Mike Mignon saves a penalty and they get away with a 0-0 draw. But Inter at home, I think they won 3-1. But they looked lethargic. They looked like they were trying to save energy for the derby, and it worked because they got to play a fairly easy fixture at home and win that 3-1. But then they didn't look much better in the derby at the start. I thought they were lethargic again. I thought AC were all over them. They're not playing with the required energy in the game. I know they took the lead, and it was a really nice goal to take the lead with, and that was Brozovic making that run from holding midfielder, but he's not. When you play a 5-3-2, your holding midfielder can do stuff like that because you still got 3 centre-backs behind. So really nice passage of play there. But that was really all they did. They didn't really earn that nice passage of play. They just have quality players who can do that at any moment. But when those quality players are playing at the required intensity, and you come up against a team in Milan who were, then you're going to get found out. And they got found out for the first 60, 65 minutes of this game. They looked old at the back. Rafael Leao absolutely gave them nightmares.
He looks like a good player as well.
Sorry?
He looks like a good player as well. But
yeah, definitely.
Still a little bit fresh. A little bit fresh.
Yeah, he's a little raw, but he did already. Obviously, AC already won the league last season, and he won Serie A Player of the Year last season. So, for his young age at 23, he's got some accolades to his name already. But yeah, I think, and that's the thing I wanted to touch on. We see Inter looking like this, and we know the gruel that this season can potentially have on an older, more experienced squad, which I think Inter are. I mean, you can argue that they're 2 best creative players in in Lautaro Martinez and Nicola Barella are the youngest players, and they're 25, so they're a good age. But the rest of the squad are not that young. I mean, they're not all old, but you look at players like De Vrij, Handanovic in goal, Brozovic in the midfield, even Chananoglu, and then when he comes on, Dzeko. And then on the left back with Damian or DeMarco, whoever you play, it's not that energetic. It's not that in your face sort of like you see with Milan, who have Rafael Leao, 23, Theo Hernandez, 24. And then you look at the midfield. I don't think Tonali's very old, and you're right on your point with Tonali. I think Tonali fits into any team because he's a really functional midfielder. He does what is needed of him in there. I don't think he's particularly like exciting, but he's exciting in watching him play in that role because he does it very well. And he's making the loss of Frank Kessie not even feel like a loss, really. Him and Benacer in that midfield. I think the centre backs of Milan they're still a little bit iffy with clever movement. We saw it from Correa on a few occasions. And obviously the goal for Brozovic, that sort of when they drop into those pockets, Kalulu and Tomori really want to go in there and press them, and sometimes both at the same time, which is obviously dangerous. But yeah, Milan took a huge step to being sort of maybe front runners for for defending their title this season. In this game, and they really knocked Inter down a peg because you look at Inter's squad, you think they should be challenging. It might turn out that Inter might be a better Champions League team, but we'll touch on that later. But they've been given the group of death, so it might not turn out that they're a better Champions League team. So, yeah, for me, Milan, really at the end of the weekend, when you look at some of the other results as well, given the fact that they already know what it takes to win the title, they've got to be favourites from this point until we see otherwise.
Yeah, I think they have obviously a very good chance of retaining the title. It just depends, obviously, how Juve go. I think.
Well, for me,
who else are the challengers for you?
I put Napoli as their chief challenger right now. Juve haven't impressed me. Drew 1-1 at Fiorentina on the weekend, which is a pretty respectable result. And they rested Vlahovic for the Champions League game in midweek as well. But like I've said, they need Vlahovic to be out of this world good this season. And when he's not playing, you can see that they struggle. So Napoli are the team. They had to go to Lazio, the Olimpico, where Inter had already failed this season. And Napoli got a 2-1 win from behind at Lazio, and I thought for the most part, I'd say the game was fairly even, but if I had to shade it to one team, I'd give it to Napoli, and I thought Spalletti continues on this sort of philosophy to score more than the other team because Victor Osimhen was an absolute live wire in the game, and he just needs to add more goals to the game because all the potential's there, but he can do everything else. And then Zielinski, I've always liked. Kvaratskhelia, I hope I said that right, but the Georgian winger, he's been a revelation this season, and he's one of the big reasons why Napoli can even look to be a title challenger at the moment because, you know, they got Osimhen and they got Zielinski. Is that enough? Probably not. But when you add this guy to the mix in terms of the attack and you add Frank Zambo and Guiso in midfield playing well, the old Fulham player who never cracked it in the Premier League, and Kim at the back who scored in this game, scored in back-to-back games now. He looks like just a defender, like an old school defender, a defender who defends, and then when he has the ball, he doesn't overcomplicate it. He just plays it, and when he goes up for set pieces, he can win headers in the opposition box. So he looks like he's filling a lot of the hole left by Koulibaly. We'll see if that continues because obviously the season's long, and Koulibaly's such a fantastic player. He was for Napoli for so long. So, but yeah, at the moment I'd say Milan are 1 and Napoli are 2 in my sort of Serie A power rankings, especially after Roma suffer a 4-0 loss at Udinese. Yeah, and look, Mourinho, I think, got it right. I only watched the first half an hour, but in that, I thought Roma were far more impressive in this game than they were when they went to Juve. Dybala was looking like a real threat, but then I obviously didn't watch the second half, but it just seems like one of those ones where they're 1-0 down, and then they concede the second, and they, it somewhat just collapses from there. So I wouldn't say it's disastrous, but 4-0 for a team that wants to win the title is never something great.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether they go for the title this season. Probably because they finished sixth last season, so they probably they try and secure Champions League this season, and then maybe next season they try to kick on for the title. So it's probably like a 3-year project, similar to his Inter team. I don't think he won the title in his first 2 seasons at Inter, and then he won the treble, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe he did win the title in his second.
Yeah, I thought it was second, but it might have been third.
Yeah,
I think it was second.
I think it might have been second, but then like they reached like the quarters of the Champions League, and they got like knocked out like with a 1-0 deficit. Can't remember. I think it might have been to United, if I'm not mistaken. And then the following
I think it was
season,
United, yeah.
And then the following season they go on and win it. But yeah, like we'll see. That seems like it's a project that he's trying to build over like a couple of seasons rather than like try to get instant success. So it's I think it's a little bit. I think that's a little bit new or exciting for Mourinho. It's something different to what he usually works with.
The good thing I'd say for them in terms of title challenge, I don't think there's any ridiculously good team in Serie A. So if they can put together a run, they've got a chance. But Milan have given themselves confidence after this result, and obviously knowing what it takes to win it. And then I guess just to hit on sort of one more point because we see Bayern drawing again, which was kind of fun. But yeah, so maybe the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga is probably that and the French league are my least favourite leagues to watch at the moment. I don't think there's enough quality in those leagues, and then the one team that is quality is super quality. So they mirror each other. But Spain is starting to shape up. And it looks like back to the old La Liga with Barcelona and Real Madrid being really dominant forces, and then the rest just lingering behind. But, Real get an important win against Betis, who won all their games going into this. And Sevilla are absolutely crumbling, and I don't think Lopetegui's going to last very much longer in that job because they were abysmal against Barca. They started the match all right, but then they just crumbled. The midfield got super open, and Barca didn't really have to do much to really win that game convincingly, 3-0. And Lewandowski scores another, I think it was one.
I
think he only got one.
Didn't he?
He did get 2,
I think he might have got 2.
Yeah. But yeah, they're looking all right, solid enough, but not spectacular. But I think Real are still the team to beat there. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Casemiro loss. That's the variable that I keep coming back to. But yeah, Sevilla are in dire straits, and I think that's all from Europe. So
yeah,
from that Europe to the European competition, I guess now.
Yeah, but while we touch on, and it'll be a perfect transition after we come back from the break. But like you mentioned, Casemiro, I don't think that will affect them in the league. It's going to affect them in the Champions League. So that's where they're going to feel it. But they're just going to keep on. They're going to get their like 80 or almost 90 points and finish first or a very close second if Barca like manage to connect all the dots and get that team rolling. Because I got to say they've started. I think they started a little bit shaky because I think didn't they get like 2 or 3 draws in their first 2 or 3 games.
Barca.
Yeah, and now they're starting to pick up wins.
They drew against Rayo, but I think they might have one other draw.
Yeah, but like I think they were like winless in their first 2 or 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. And now they've like picked up 2 or 3 wins on the bounce. Let me just check that.
They've drawn 1, and then they've won the next 3.
Okay.
But Real Madrid have won all their games, so
yeah. Well,
it definitely looks like those 2. Villarreal is still sort of lingering as well, though. And I did mention them a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but like usually it's pretty much like the start of the season. Like you usually have a team if they have some favorable fixtures, then like they're just similar to Brighton in the EPL. Like they've had some pretty favorable fixtures, but they're sitting in the top four. But they'll end up falling short, similar to last season. And like it's I don't know, maybe Villarreal could get fourth. Like that's what La Liga usually is. Like
I think they could get third at this point, and I think they could be clearly the third best team in La Liga. And if everything breaks their way, the only problem is they're in the Conference League. If they had absolutely no European football to contend with, I think things could be set up for them to maybe have a little run at Barca and Real. Although I don't deny Barca and Real have more quality throughout the squad, but Villarreal starting 11 and squad to some extent, it's pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with it. And let's not forget that team made Champions League semi-finals last season.
The Conference League travel schedule might be bad because at least like in the Champions League you're going just like to England, to Spain, to France, to Germany, whereas this it's like you're going to like Israel, Georgia, Greece, Azerbaijan, like you're on all these like far east places like that. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure on the geography of how they consider Europe. I think it's based off the Ural Mountains in Russia, and like they just draw a straight line down. That's why you have all these like some Middle Eastern teams being considered part of Europe, at least for European competition. But yeah, like they're pretty much traveling all the way to there, so they don't have a favorable travel schedule. But I haven't checked their group stage to see where they're traveling. They might not even be traveling there. They might have like just like Czech Republic and places like that, like middle of Europe, which isn't actually too bad. But yeah, maybe who knows how the season pans out for them. So yeah, well, on that though, take a break and then come back to review the Champions League. And like I think there's some juicy games there. So yeah, we'll be back in a couple of minutes. And we're back after a short little break, short little intermission. Before we get into the Champions League, I've got some bad news for you. You know how I told you that I was going to try and get tickets for the Dinamo Zagreb-Chelsea game? Okay. Their booking system is absolutely horrific. So you know on Ticket Tech or Ticketmaster, when you actually go to buy tickets for a concert or a sporting event, like it reserves your seat or your ticket for like 5 minutes, and you have to enter the details of, your personal details, your credit card and everything, and then you can keep going along. So I woke up 11 a.m. tickets go on sale. I jump on straight away. Boom! I reserve the tickets, and then I try to go to the next step to enter my details. Site's like, oh, nah, you can't go further. We're experiencing technical difficulties. I go back, keep refreshing, and it's just that half an hour, 1 hour of me refreshing the page, trying to go further, getting further in line where I enter my details, but then when I go to the next step to try and enter my card details, it's like, nah, can't go further, technical difficulties. So yeah, didn't end up getting tickets. And I'm going to go on a mini rant here. So 2 years ago there was an earthquake in Zagreb, right? Basically the stadium got a little bit damaged from that, so they've only been able to fill the north and west end of the stadium, and the east, the south end, they reserve a little bit of it for the away fans, right? So we can't get the south end at all. So they only sell tickets for the north and the east. The west is completely blocked off. So 2 years, and neither Dinamo, the Croatian national, what would you say, football league association or whatever, like the national team association, and the city can't get together to fix the bloody stadium. 2 years. If something was to happen like that to like the MCG or the Emirates Stadium or Manchester or Old Trafford or any stadium in any city in like England, Australia, France, Germany, anywhere else, it would be fixed within 6 months. And considering the national team plays at this stadium, like it should be in the national team stadium, and they've only been able to allow half capacity for the stadium. Like it's an absolute disgrace, and they need to get their shit together, because it's absolutely horrific that in 2 years you can't fix anything at all. Like just because of all the bureaucracy and politics, and I'm sure there's underhanded deals as well, like where money will go to who money will go, and you can't get your shit together. So to the club, to the national team association, and to the city, a big F you, get your shit together. So yeah, Caleb, I'll hand it over to you to lead us on the Champions League topic.
And there's the TikTok clip. Never trying to clean up Croatian politics in the council. God damn it. No, that sucks. That would have been sick. It was a sick experience to go to a Champions League game, especially against Chelsea. Who you know what? They might have a chance of winning that, the way Chelsea are playing at the moment. So.
Possibly, yeah.
All right. I'll start on the micro level, and then we'll go out to the macro level. So the first question, and I don't know. I think I'll know your answer, but which game are you looking forward to most tomorrow morning?
Well, tonight. Or
tonight.
are you talking about tomorrow? Because there's tomorrow and today.
Sorry, not tomorrow. The whole match day one of the Champions League.
Let me just bring up the fixtures again, because like the fact that I was supposed to go to the game threw me out of tact. So I sort of didn't want to have anything to do with the Champions League for like the last 2 days. Well, tonight, Celtic Real Madrid could be an interesting game, actually, because with Celtic being back in the Champions, that could be an interesting game.
That one caught my eye.
Yeah, PSG Juve is obviously the biggest game, but the way Juve
is it? No, that's
tonight.
Oh, tonight, yeah. If it's just tonight, I was looking at the whole fixtures.
But but with Juve though, they don't really excite me. Like I don't get excited by them these days. Like they're like
The only thing good to watch about him is Vlahovic.
Yeah.
And if I can't get service to him, what's the point?
Yeah. Tomorrow though, Inter Bayern could be a very interesting game.
Well, that's got to be the 1 seed.
Liverpool Napoli could be interesting as well. It would be more interesting if Liverpool were playing well, but they're playing away as well.
Yeah, away as well.
As the fact that they're not playing well.
Yeah.
Out of all the games, Barca Victoria Pilsen. Oh, what a banger!
That's a lot of fun you'd go to.
What a banger! Ooh, Ajax Rangers could be interesting. Like 2 historical powerhouses of you. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say Rangers were a powerhouse, but like back in the 60s and 70s, like they weren't a force to be reckoned with, but they were really competitive in Europe. I don't know.
Before you move away from this, I want a mini rant. I have no idea why Ajax were in pot 1 when we were in pot 2 for the groups. Whatever the sort of the actually I do know why I read up about this. It's because the champions from the I think major 6 leagues and the previous season's Champions League winners and the previous season Europa League winners are all in pot 1.
Oh, so you guys got knocked out then of pot 1.
Yeah, we got knocked down. So I'm pretty sure our coefficient would have been better than Ajax's.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know why the Europa League winners are in pot 1. I think they should be in pot 3 or 4.
Or 2.
I don't think they should go straight into pot 1.
Pot 2, I think.
Yeah, maybe pot 2. Because now you've got a group that has Eintracht Frankfurt, Tottenham, Sporting, and Marseille. That's a bang average group. There's no huge club in that at all. Yeah. Whereas you've got another group that has Bayern, Barca, and Inter.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
That could have been Arsenal's group with Tottenham. Damn, my boys, bloody shot themselves in the. I don't know, I was gonna say foot, but it's worse than the foot. Shot themselves in the heart, in my heart. But yeah, out of those ones, the only 2 games that like are big is PSG, Juve, and Inter Bayern.
Yeah, I think Inter Bayern's the 1 seed for me. That's just for the names and whatnot. But Inter are playing well, Juve are playing well. So PSG and Bayern, I expect to win those games. But it'll be good to see, especially PSG, get a real challenge. Well, we hope a real challenge by Juve. But I expect Bayern to get a proper challenge from Inter as well. But actually, probably the most intriguing. There's a couple of intriguing games. I think Napoli-Liverpool is a really intriguing game.
Yeah, that could be
because if Liverpool don't start the group stage well, I think it's going to be pretty tough to get out. If they're white knuckling and if we don't have a full squad in the way we're playing, I know it's Ajax, Napoli, Rangers, but especially because the fact you have to go to Rangers, which means Rangers are easily, for me, the weakest team in that group, and they're not even that weak. But then you have to go and play at Ibrox, which almost levels things out. I know we have to be fair, all 4 of those places you have to go are really atmospheric sort of cathedrals of European football somewhat. So that'll be an interesting group. But the one that I'm sneaky really interested in is Milan versus Salzburg. Because
I was going to say that could be an interesting one.
And Milan I'm looking for because they went into last season's Champions League, and I know they had a group of death in that one with us and Atletico, but Atletico were not, and Porto, but Atletico weren't playing well at that stage, and I thought Milan would have been bitterly disappointed with the way they performed last season. So I'm interested to see what the champions of Italy, they're coming in as the champions of Italy, and that's a big game because I expect it to be... Well, it might be Chelsea and Salzburg fighting it out for second place as well. So I'm hoping that Milan take their game to a next level and look like a team that's ready to maybe make quarterfinals in the Champions League, because I would like to see some Italian teams do well. and get Serie A back on like a better footing. So that game I was sneaky interested in because I thought Milan are going to have to get off to a good start. If they lose this game, it sort of feels like last season all over again, where they're playing well in Serie A, but then they come to the test of the Champions League and they sort of crumble a bit. So for them, I think it'll be a big game psychologically for them. So that one was the one that sneaky got my attention. Other than, of course, Bayern Inter in what is the group of death. We're going to have Barca Inter as well because that group has all those teams. So, look, those games will be really interesting. But yeah, for me, they're the interesting ones. Much for the same reasons. I think you've only got 6 games to play, and you've got to make a strong start. And teams like Liverpool with those question marks, Milan with the question marks of last season, even Chelsea somewhat, but I expect them to win it at Zagreb. Even though Zagreb have been steadily improving, Dinamo have been steadily improving their European performances over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah,
so.
but not their stadium.
That's good.
But just on the Milan point though, like I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt for last season because like did they finish like 3rd or 4th like the season before to qualify for the Champions League? I think it was like 4th. So the way I look at it is last season, and considering the squad is relatively young and has like just a couple of like experienced players, but it's a relatively young squad. I think last season was more like them dipping the toes in the water and sort of, and considering they hadn't been in the Champions League for like 10 years, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a long time.
Yeah, like it was quite a long time. So it was them dipping their toes in the water, seeing what the competition was all about, and they had a relatively tough group as well. Like, who was it? It was like Porto, Liverpool, and Atletico. So they had a relatively tough group.
Oh, it was the group of death last season.
Yeah. So this season, you would expect them with being the champions, having that experience of playing in the top tier of European football again, and having another year of experience. You would expect them to definitely get out of the group. I'd be extremely, extremely surprised if they don't get out of the group. Especially after I haven't watched a lot of AC, but after watching them this weekend against Inter, like you said, I'd expect quarters at a minimum, so long as like they don't get drawn in this in the round of 16 against like a Barca or a Bayern, depending on who finished first or second out of that one. Or like if Liverpool or Napoli finish first or second, so long as they don't get a one of those like league challenges from one of the top leagues, then I'd expect quarters to be on the cards for them.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and it depends on the draw if they do get out of the group. But so to take it out bigger picture, I guess I'll go the intermediate question now, and this will answer another question that I had about who do you see as sort of a sneaky bet to not make it out of the group stages with sort of a big club. But I'll ask it this way: in going from Group A to all the way down through the 8 great groups to Group H, who are the 2 teams from each group that you see going through to the groups, the knockout stages?
Group A, I'd expect Ajax and Liverpool to go through. I think Ajax Ajax lost Ten Hag though, so I'm not sure how they will be.
And a few players.
Yeah. No, I'll change that to Liverpool, Napoli. I
agree with that.
They'll go through.
Well, we don't know that, but I agree with that. I think they'll go through.
Yeah, Leverkusen. I think they kept hold of Patrick Schick, and I mentioned it a couple of times that Arsenal should look to sign him. That's going to be interesting to watch him then in the Champions League. Group B. I think I might go Atletico Leverkusen to go through. I'm not quite sure on Porto. Like, I haven't watched them enough.
Yeah, me neither.
But I think they'll challenge. They'll challenge for that second spot. But I think it'll be between Atletico and Leverkusen. Even though Atletico haven't got off to a good start, but they seem to always grind out those Champions League like results, and they always seem to make like the quarters like at a minimum generally.
So this group B is like really. This could go anywhere. The only team that I rule out is probably Bruges.
Yeah.
But between the other three, it depends on which Porto show up. If Porto show up and they look good, then I could possibly see it being Porto and Leverkusen, because Atletico have been thoroughly unimpressive this season. But it depends on Porto for me. It also depends on Leverkusen, because they didn't make a good start to the Bundesliga season. But they, like you say, I believe they kept hold of all their main players. So Patrick Schick, Diaby I think his name's Diaby on the right wing. I saw him linking up with Frimpong at right back, and they were the three key players for me, and they kept them all. So if they can rock up like they did for the team that finished third last season to get here, then they got a good chance of going through. So
yeah.
Here's the big one, onto Group C, the group of death.
I think the obvious one there is Bayern Barca to go through.
Yeah.
Just depends
I agree with that.
I'd actually, since like I think everyone's in concession that it's going to be Bayern Barca, I'll go even further and say I have a feeling Barca will finish first in that group. I just have
That's a big call.
I just have this sneaky suspicion that they're going to finish first in the group, and I think that they will get the win at the Allianz, because Lewandowski's going to come there with a chip on his shoulder. I have a feeling it's going to go. I have a feeling it's going to go down that way.
It's definitely a fun subplot.
Yeah, it's gonna that whole narrative is going to be pretty fun. So
the only sort of counterpoint I'd say is, and we have to see it, but will Inter be a better Champions League team because of the experience and the depth of their squad? Will they play better in this competition than they do in Serie A, where it's more the grind? Have they been gearing themselves to try and get out of the Champions League group stage this year? Because they were Italy's best representative last year. So can they... I see Bayern finishing top of this group. I think if Inter were going to progress, they need to knock off Barca, especially as Barca are early into their project and trying to fit all their pieces together. So I'll be interested to see how they go under the duress of challenges like Bayern and Inter. So that's the path I see for Inter. They need to just show that they're a better team in this competition than Serie A because of that experience and the game plans they can come into the game. But yeah, I agree. Barca and Bayern have to be the 1-2 favourites.
Yeah. Group D. Well, Tottenham's pretty much the obvious one. They should win the group. And I think
weak group.
Yeah. I think Marseille. I think they lost a couple of players though, so that I'm not sure how they started the season.
Well, they're doing well in Liga, and they're I think third or fourth.
You looking on at that group, you'd expect them to finish second then. But is this their first Champions League with this group? I
believe they have. Yeah, and I believe they have a horrible recent European record. I think it's something like they've taken 1 point in the last 18 or something. Something ridiculous. It's really bad.
Yeah, so you'd expect it to go that way. Tottenham, Marseille to finish 1 and 2.
I can't expect anything from this group except for Tottenham finishing top. The other three teams, I think, are very weak for this competition.
Yeah, but Frankfurt last season, they looked good last season. Yeah, they looked good.
No, they're not the same team for me this season.
Group E, you'd expect Chelsea and Milan to go through. So you'd expect it pretty much. like see, do you have it open? Do you have like the group table open? Like,
Yeah.
like with 0 points and 0 games played, like it's Milan, Chelsea, Salzburg, Dinamo. It's probably going to
Yeah,
finish
that's
that
the
way.
pot.
It's probably going to finish that way as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, you could see that easily.
Based on how Chelsea are playing so far this season, it's probably going to finish that way, which is going to be disappointing for Dinamo because that means that they miss out on Europa League, and they've gotten, I think, to the quarters in the last couple of seasons in a row in the Europa League, and this is going to ruin their coefficient then, finishing fourth. So
Yeah, well, there'll just be big games against Salzburg, and we'll have to wait and see which
Chelsea show
Milan
up
and
tonight.
which Chelsea. Yeah, which both of those teams rock up. But yeah, I see it finishing those two as well.
Yeah. Group F, it's probably going to finish. I'd say it's probably going to finish Actually, no. I'd say Celtic finish third and Shakhtar finish fourth, just because of everything that's going on in Ukraine, and like their league isn't even going on at the moment, is it?
I think it is, but they're playing under threat of like air raids, and they're playing with air sirens going off and having to evacuate the pitch.
And the fact that like Shakhtar aren't playing at home, they're playing no game. They're playing outside of Ukraine, aren't they? They're not even playing in Ukraine.
I'm pretty sure they'd have to be.
Yeah, so they have no advantages at all. So Shakhtar, I think, will finish fourth. Celtic third.
I think in that group, the games between, and I'm just checking to make sure this is the case, but yes, Celtic and Leipzig play each other in the back-to-back Matchday 3 and Matchday 4. Those two back-to-backs are huge for me for who finishes second, because I think Celtic have a genuine chance to finish second in this group, because Leipzig haven't really, they haven't lit the house on fire to start the season in the Bundesliga. I think they have more quality, especially in their front three. But if Celtic are playing well enough and their team's clicking, then they can get at the rest of the team. So I give them a chance of finishing second, and I'll go out on a limb and say it'll be Real and Celtic to get out of that group.
I think it'll still be Real, Leipzig, just because Celtic don't.
Yeah, I think that's the safer bet.
There's no experience, or there's no European experience in that team. This is Ange's first Champions League campaign, which is actually pretty cool. Like, that, you know.
Well, it's cool. It's cool that we have two Scottish teams in the Champions League as well.
That too, as well. But it's also cool that we got an Australian manager, and he's got them playing really well, really good football. Yeah. And from by all accounts, the Celtic fans seem to be very happy with him as well.
No reason why not to be.
Yeah, so I think third is a minimum for them. Fourth will just be an utter disappointment, and then they'll just end up win the league and probably the Scottish Cup as well. Scottish Cup, I don't know, maybe they lose that to Rangers, but they'll probably win the league because they absolutely smash Rangers 4-0 on the weekend.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. So for me, Real Madrid, Leipzig, and then Celtic third. Unfortunately, otherwise, if it was like any other year, like a normal year, I'd say Shakhtar finished second in that group, because Shakhtar has always pretty much always done well in the Champions League. They've always finished like second or like a close second, so third. But yeah, just because of everything that's going on, unfortunately, I don't even see them finishing third. So moving on, Group G. I'm probably City, Dortmund. I'm assuming.
Dortmund must be one of the most lucky teams in Europe at the moment. I mean, they've got to win the games, but Sevilla are in a terrible moment at the moment, and Copenhagen I don't really expect to challenge.
Yeah, so they're just there to make the numbers.
Yeah, Dortmund could get through this group by default. They're top of the Bundesliga table for me by default. They have not been impressive in any way, shape, or form so far this season. So long may it continue for them. I expect them to get out along with City, but I don't expect to be impressed by them, to be quite honest.
Yeah. So I think just because Sevilla, they didn't just lose Koundé, they lost a couple other players, didn't they?
They lost Diego Carlos, so both their centre backs were gone.
Yeah.
The rest of the team seems pretty much intact.
But they're a year older
they lost their whole centre back partnership, and they were the best defence in the equal best defence in the league last season. So tough.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they finished third on purpose just so they can drop down to the Europa League and win that competition.
They love that one. That's a favourite.
They love that one. But yeah, I expect that to be City, Dortmund, in that order.
Yeah.
And then Sevilla third, Copenhagen fourth. And then the last group's a little bit interesting, just because Benfica's sort of thrown in there. But
they're a good side as well.
Yeah, but you fully expect that one to be PSG, Juve. Like pretty much the way that the group is sitting at the moment, PSG first, Juve second, Benfica third, and then Maccabi, Haifa fourth. You expect to finish exactly.
That's another one. This is probably where my biggest shock comes in, but I'm going to go for PSG and Benfica coming out of that group. Yeah, Juve just under this, since Allegri's been back,
they haven't looked impressive. I'm not seeing
anything. Yeah, there's nothing impressive. At least the old Allegri teams, he threw in tactical wrinkles. His teams were good enough to change on the fly, but this Allegri team, I've seen nothing really from them.
There's nothing even interesting either. Like,
not even
impressive.
Exactly
There's nothing interesting. So
yeah. And well, the big interest is Vlahovic. So if they get out of this group, he's going to have to score 4 or 5 goals in the group stage to get him out.
When's Chiesa coming back? Because I remember, I don't know whether I talked about it on the pod, but I talked about it with you and Matthias, that he would have been a perfect replacement for Mane. Like, absolutely perfect. And he would have suited your style, and he would have slotted in, like, without a hitch.
Yeah, he's very raw, like I said when we said that. But Juve to be interesting, will need him and Pogba to come back into the team ASAP. Because without them, I agree, they're not interesting. That's the perfect way to put it.
And they lost Di Maria as well, like in pre-season.
I think he came back on the weekend.
Did he? Okay, I thought that was going to be like a really long injury.
It looked like it was going to be a long one, but he was back on the weekend, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that could be interesting then. With him
so
going
now
back
we have
to
our
PSG.
picks.
Then.
Yeah, we have our picks of the 8 groups. So the final question is the biggest picture question. And I know I'm asking you on the fly, so we can sort of go through it together or whatnot. But I'm interested to get how you would put all the teams in the Champions League into like tiers. So like obviously tier 1 is genuine contender who I expect to contend for the whole title. Then tier 2 would be like flyers. Tier 3 would be, I guess, tier 3 would be dark horses. Tier 2 would be good sides. Things need to go right for them to really have a go, and so on. Like, because I think you can you don't need to give definitive, this is my number 1, this is my number 2.
Yeah.
Because normally there's a few teams who are around the same level. So just to put them in tier, and what I'm also interested to see is how it matches up to sort of the group stages, because there's an instance where I think obviously Bayern, Barca and Inter, they would be tier 1 or tier 2, maybe at a push tier 3 for Inter, but I can't see that. But one of those teams we're going to lose straight away, straight off the bat. So, I'm interested to get that perspective and start ranking our contenders for the Champions League, really.
Well, I think there's only, considering how poorly Liverpool have started, I'd only put City and Bayern in tier 1. So like the 2 favourites. However, I think Liverpool are like a half tier 1 just because they have that European pedigree and they can turn it on for a cup competition. So I'd put them like half in tier 1, half in tier 2. So that'd only be like that's only like 2.5 teams in the tier 1 bracket.
So Bayern, City, little drop off, Liverpool, then another little drop off to your
Yeah,
tier two.
I think that's how I'd put it. And then so tier two, I'd put Barca, Real, just because Real have lost Casemiro. Otherwise, I'd put Real in that similar sort of tier where Liverpool is, just because they have that European pedigree. And so tier two, Real, Barca, PSG.
So I think we're pretty much aligned. The only differences I'd make is I would put. Okay, I would do it this way. I'd put Bayern, Man City. I think that's obvious that those two should be tier one. I'd also I'd put PSG 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say they're clinging on to tier one just about, and then I'd put Real Madrid as 4 and Liverpool as 5, and both of those teams have, I think, asterisks next to them.
Just
The
because
Real
of their
Madrid
history.
one is, well, the Real Madrid one is, let's see how they look without Casemiro, but I still think even without him, they're still one of the top teams in Europe, and they know how to win this competition, but there is that question mark, what happens without their best defensive player from last season. Liverpool, the question mark is, do they get out of the group stage? Because I think if they get out of the group stage and then after the World Cup we look at the squad and all those players are back, then there's every chance that they could be right back in tier one as a genuine contender for the Champions League if they can string together a few good results with the full squad back. But there's also a scenario where they're missing too many players in this early stage. They're playing in a tough group. There's a scenario where they don't make it out of the group. And
Really?
I don't know. I think that would be the biggest story probably from what we saw Liverpool being going into the season. But I'm definitely not putting it outside of the realms of possibility that they don't get out of the group.
It would have been. I'd agree with that statement had Ajax have not lost like 3 or 4 of their best players and Ten Hag. Then I'd agree with her. I'd be like, well, this could be a very challenging group. But because Ajax have been sort of decimated, I'm not sure how they'll fly.
Well, that's the question. What Ajax do we get coming in, losing a few players, and obviously the manager?
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the question mark. But what I've seen of Napoli, how hard I know it is to go to Ibrox. There's tough fixtures in this group, so Ajax is the joker in that pack.
Well,
don't get me wrong. I expect Liverpool to get out of the group, but I'm just saying there's a scenario where they don't.
Well, if you come to that stage where it's Matchday 6 and you need a win to get over the line, just bring Stevie G back and he'll bang one in for you.
What a moment. Oh, yeah, beauty. What a head, son.
Bringing back those Olympiacos memories.
Oh, man, what a night. That whole run-in, just what a run to the Champions League. Probably only eclipsed by Real Madrid last season.
Oh, what a run they had.
Yeah,
they lost the opening. Was the opening match day against who was it against? Sheriff.
And
it was
I don't know if it was the
3-1.
I think they lost at home to Sheriff as well.
But I think that happened the season before, where I think they lost to Shakhtar at home. And then they end up making it to the semis, I think. Yeah, because they beat you guys in the quarters. Yeah, and then they lost to Chelsea in the semis. But yeah, like in terms of, I reckon Tottenham and Milan could be a dark horse. I reckon Chelsea.
So this is tier 2 now.
Tier 2, we've already said.
You've got more tiers than me. Yeah, you've got more tiers than me. So that was my tier 1.
Tier 3 is probably my dark horses.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know where to put Chelsea because they've signed like good players, but they're just not clicking at the moment. Tuchel he doesn't know how to put the jigsaw together, it seems. Aubameyang is yet to come into the team, so it will be interesting to see how he functions and like how Tuchel's going to use him, and the fact that they're going to have a proper number 9 now. So, I like I said, I don't know whether to put them as dark horses or in tier 2. Like on paper, they should be tier 2, but the fact that they just can't click, I'm tempted to put them as like a tier 3, like a dark horse.
Yeah, so I've got 5 in my tier 1, and then my tier 2 starts at...
Wait, who are your 5 in tier 1?
Bayern, City, PSG, Real Madrid, Liverpool.
They're all
the
tier 1.
The last two are very touch and go, though. The last two have question marks over them. The first 3 for me, PSG, I can rate them. That's the actual ranking of them, but they're all sort of in that. I expect them to somewhat contend. My tier 2 starts at Barca, and then I'd probably go Tottenham.
Yeah.
7. But Conte doesn't have a great track record in the Champions League, it must be said as well.
That's why they're a dark horse for me.
Yeah, question marks there for sure. Then I'd probably put Inter for experience, but again, Simone Inzaghi.
I don't think they
same
get out
question
of the group.
marks over. Well, no, but that's the thing. I'm just rating them purely on what I've seen, their rankings compared to the other clubs. I'm not looking at it from can they get out of the group. I'm just saying, like, if that was in a vacuum, if they were in a vacuum, they'd be, for me, the 7th favourites to get out. But the fact that they're in a tough group makes it tougher. I understand that as well. But yeah, I think that finishes my... No, I'd put Chelsea still in tier 2 as well. Like, so that little debate, internal struggle you were having, Chelsea and Milan would round out my tier 2, which is now 9 teams. And I'd put Milan above Chelsea as well.
Yeah, just because they seem a little bit more cohesive. They probably have a bit of better chemistry.
We just need to see them in the Champions League now.
Yeah.
And so I guess tier 3 is sort of real dark horses. Probably don't expect to win it, but maybe a Villarreal situation where they can make semis if everything goes right. Do you have any clubs for that? Because I can see a few that stand out to be sort of...
Juve? We haven't mentioned them.
Yeah, Juve and Atletico, you sort of got to put them in there because they're in the same boat. Juve and Atletico in particular, those two powerhouses, but they're not playing well at the moment. So they've got the experience and the pedigree, but...
I think Napoli could be a dark horse as well.
Napoli, they were the one that caught my eye definitely to put into that category. Ajax will know more about when we see, but at the moment they're just outside of there.
I think Leipzig and Porto, depending on who they get, I reckon they could make the quarterfinals, depending on who they get in the round of 16.
Very dependent on that. They'd need to get a very favourable draw.
But I can see both those teams making the quarters.
Maybe they'd have to get extremely lucky.
Yeah,
with that draw.
I said, they have to get lucky.
Yeah. So you got Atletico and Juve who are in there because of pedigree. The two that stand out who could be excitement packages would be Napoli and Benfica for me. They're the two who...
Do you put Benfica above Porto?
Well, the problem is I haven't seen Porto this season.
Yeah.
So they're in the Ajax category, to be determined. But yeah, what I did see of Benfica, I was impressed with. I wouldn't even put Dortmund in the Napoli-Benfica category at the moment. I just have been like, you could put them there because they're likely to get out of their group. But in terms of what I've actually seen from them, I would rate them, we're down to like 13 or 14 now. So, and yeah, that's the point where I think the relative or the relevant teams sort of fall off. If you want to put Leipzig in there, yeah, maybe they can get out of the group. They can definitely get out of the group, but I don't see them as a really great shout to do anything once they get out of there. Whereas like a Napoli or a Benfica, I think they've at least got the higher ceiling where if they play to their potential, they could cause an upset even in the round of 16 if they get out of the group.
Yeah. Anything else to add or?
I'm happy with that. I was wondering as well. There was just one last question that we might finish on, but who do you see?
I got a question for you after your question.
Okay, well, my question is, who do you see as being the standout individual performers going into this Champions League? Who do you
talking about players or teams?
Yeah, individual players, individual. Maybe it's even a breakout manager, but like a breakout player, and then a player you expect to maybe go to the next level. Just stuff like that.
The obvious one is Haaland for me. I reckon he'll finish as Champions League top goal scorer. I reckon he'll. I reckon there's a possibility he gets 15 goals because he's probably going to get 10 in the group stage. So I see him finish like so long as the wheels don't fall off City and like something goes horribly wrong or like there's not major injuries to Haaland himself or De Bruyne or whatnot. Like this is everything. Just everyone stays fit and they continue clicking the way they have been so far in the opening 6 fixtures of the Premier League. I see Haaland getting 15 goals plus by the end of the campaign.
Huge call.
I can completely see that. I know they don't who's in their group again. Like, come on, like against Copenhagen, like I know nothing's tacked on for a certainty, but you'd expect him in one of the 2 fixtures for him to get 3 goals. Or for instance, get accumulation of 3 goals over 2 games against Copenhagen. He probably gets like 1 or 2 against Dortmund and another 1 or 2 against Sevilla. So over 6 games, I expect him to get like at least minimum 6 goals there, if not 10. I would not be one bit surprised if he gets to double digits in the group stage.
I don't know. That one for me is a bit. It's not far fetched, but it's
not.
I don't know. It's we've been a bit blinded by his start of the season. If he carries on like this, ridiculous. This is a level we've probably never seen.
Yeah.
But I don't expect him to carry on at a rate of 10 goals in 6 games, to be quite, especially in a tougher competition like the Champions League. But he has been sensational, no doubt. So, yeah, and he would be a breakout player because he hasn't really done it at this level. So he's definitely one.
Doesn't he already have like 50 goals? No, 50. He already has like 30 or 40 goals in the Champions League, doesn't he?
In the Champions League?
I'm pretty sure he has a pretty good record in the Champions League.
All right, we need to get IT on this.
Because when he was at Salzburg, I think he got like two hat tricks or something already. Like when he was there. Haaland Champions League stats. You know, if anyone's listening just like to the audio, this is like we didn't cut out. So we're just checking to see how many goals Haaland has in the Champions League.
I had 27 in 25, but I don't know if they're all in the Champions League. That's just European competition, but they might all be in the Champions League.
Yeah.
You got 10 in the Dortmund season.
So he has it has all Champions League here. So he has 8 from Salzburg, two in Dortmund, and then another in this first season of Dortmund. So 10. He has 23.
Yeah, that's not bad.
23 goals. Okay, I thought he had like 30. But even so, like he's only what 22, 21.
Yeah, it's
22.
It's crazy. Let's say if he continues the level that he's been at to start at City. I see.
Oh, also Vinicius as well, but he already technically sort of broke out. But I think he continues that good form and that good run and sort of keeps on cementing himself step by step as like a world class player.
Yeah, he was one who I'm looking to can take it to the next level now, because, as you say, I thought he broke out 2 seasons ago when they beat us in the quarterfinals of that sort of empty stadium season. But he was really good as a really young player then, and then last season, obviously, we saw what he did. And this season, the way he started in La Liga, it looks like he's ready to just be a world-class player now rather than just a world-class young player. And the other one I was going to say is Musiala from Bayern. I think Bayern have the chance to go deep, and whenever I've seen Bayern, he's been the most impressive attacking player when he plays. So, and Mane's been excellent as well.
Yeah.
So they're probably the 3. And it's funny, it goes into that theory about the young players, because you sort of expect. Oh, and the other one, when you were on the point of Haaland, I want to see how Mbappe does as well, because I'm loving the little rivalry that could potentially be developing there. But obviously, you can't call Mbappe a breakout star.
Yeah.
Haaland somewhat. Haaland we'll see in the knockout stages, because that's why I'm really interested to see what kind of work he does then. And yeah, that rivalry between Mbappe and Haaland. But all the players we mentioned are all young players. You obviously expect De Bruyne to be pretty good. Kane and Son back in the Champions League. That will be interesting to see as well. Harry Kane we haven't really talked much about Harry Kane, but he's been steadily pretty excellent this season. So
he's sort of flying under the radar. Like, he's just grabbing a goal or two in every game, but he's not having standout performances where he's getting like 2 or 3 goals plus another 1 or 2 assists, or like 3 assists to Son or whatever. Like, but he's just like, yeah, he's flying out of the radar, and that's like what Tottenham have been doing. Like, they've been, yeah, I think we mentioned this. They've been getting results despite not playing fantastic.
Yeah. And now the one question mark over Conte's whole managerial career is, can he finally do something in the Champions League?
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to watch for from Tottenham. So before we finish, I know you had a question, so I'm interested to hear.
So mine is it's more of a hypothetical / feel good question / narrative. Should Cristiano Ronaldo have moved to Sporting Lisbon, considering they're in the Champions League? They've got a relatively easy group to possibly get out of. I think they're in that Tottenham group, right?
Yeah.
And it would have given him a chance to go to his boyhood club, finish off his career, because he's 37. So not only does he finish off, not only does he play his last World Cup this year, finishes off his career at Sporting Lisbon, adds another 3, 4, 5 goals to his Champions League tally to take him even further ahead of everyone else. Should that have been a move that he should have pushed for?
I don't know, really. If that's what he wants, he's Cristiano Ronaldo, so if that's what he wants, go and do it. It's interesting. Were Sporting pushing for the move? Was he pushing for the move? I'm pretty sure he would have been pushing for the move, because I don't think he wanted to stay at United. But
the only thing is, like, it's a question of money though, because like I think he has 1 year left on his contract. It's $500,000 a week. He would have to pretty much say, nah, look, I don't care about the money, just let me go. But then, obviously, Man United have to agree to that as well.
And Sporting need to want him.
And I think Sporting would want him. But then the question would be, look, dude, we can't pay you $500,000 a week. Like, we can pay you maybe like $100,000. I'm not sure how. Again, that goes us into hypothetically talking about the psyche of the player. He's like I think he's like the richest sports person in the world. Like, he gets so much money from sponsorships, as well as his actual wages, as well as his social media income as well, because I think he's like the most followed person on Instagram. So money isn't a question for him. So like, and now it's more of a question of legacy. And considering like this could have been like that sort of perfect fairy tale ending where he gets Sporting at least out of the group stages, and then like they're not going to win the Champions League, but gets them out of the group stages, gets knocked out in the round of 16, or possibly the quarters if they get a really favourable round of 16 opponent, and then he makes a run to the quarters, maybe the semis with Portugal at the World Cup, and then he finishes off his career. Like because he's going to be 38 next year. He's turning 38 before the season ends.
The main thing for his legacy now is what happens in the World Cup. I think it could, but on the flip side, in terms of his club career, I think it could help if he stays at United, scores a few important goals throughout the season. He's not going to get the numbers he normally gets, I don't think, but he could still have an impact off the bench as a sub or playing in a few games throughout the season because it's every 3 days. And if United continue to perform well and he scores some important goals that help them into the top 4 or maybe even further in terms of maybe putting together a title challenge if things go really well, then that's equally as good as for his legacy. It's not as good for his statistical legacy because he can't score in the Champions League, but he's somewhat back at his boyhood club in terms of United because he was very young when he arrived there and that's where he broke through. So if he can do something to repay that, that'll be great for his legacy as well. But for me, it all hinges on what he can do at the World Cup. Can he take Portugal deep into that tournament? Can he be the leader that he's shown to be for Portugal over the recent years? And can he score a few goals in the tournament as well? So, yeah, the World Cup's definitely, for any player, is always the biggest thing for your legacy.
I think Portugal have a pretty interesting team as well. Like you got you got the Wolves squad. You got Fernandes, Bernardo Silva. Isn't Ruben Dias is Portuguese as well? You got Ruben Dias, obviously Ronaldo. You got Neto as well. Neto is Portuguese, right? I pretty much said the Wolves.
If they play at Wolves, they're probably Portuguese.
Yeah. So, but like they've wait, is the Wolves goalkeeper Portuguese as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jose Sá is.
They actually have a pretty decent group of players, that Portugal team.
Well, yeah, Portugal in recent years have had a pretty golden generation, I'd say. So I expect them. I
swear there's one or two other players that I'm missing that are actually like standouts, like like a Bernardo Silva and a Bruno. Like I swear there's one or two more players, maybe like a left or right back.
I think Cancelo. When we get João Cancelo is Portuguese, of course. I think when we get our international break, then we'll start looking at some World Cup stuff.
But I think the squads get announced or finalized in November. I think mid or late November, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and once that happens, that'll definitely be a topic that we'll talk about.
We might have to do a 2 or 3 parter, considering there's 32 teams to go through. But yeah, look, we've pretty much touched on everything. But just quickly, how do you think at least the big games will go tonight? And I'll just ask, in terms of tonight, the big games. There's actually a couple of decent ones, but they're not big. PSG Juve, obviously. How do you think that one will go? PSG playing at home.
I think PSG will win 3-1.
I think Juve have the potential to stifle them, though. That's the only problem. Just they can just like play like that typical Italian team that doesn't concede a goal, and it can be a very boring game.
My question is, do they have the personnel to do it?
They might not, but I can see 100%. I can see PSG winning that, and that's most likely going to be the outcome. But on the flip side, I can also see Juve playing a very boring, stifling sort of style. I can see that one, considering that they know they're going to PSG, and they're like, for you, they're the top 3 team. Sevilla, Man City.
Man City 3-0.
Celtic, Real Madrid. At Celtic.
2-1 to Real Madrid.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And should we do tomorrow's game as well? Because we're not gonna. So Inter Bayern. Yeah, Inter Bayern.
I can see a 1-1 in that.
I can see Bayern going there and beating them like 3-0, or even possibly
3-0.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I can see them coming out firing.
Well, they've drawn their last 2.
Yeah, but I can see them like because they always generally do really well in the group stages, and like that seems to be like the group stages for them is like what the Europa League is for Sevilla. So, Napoli, Liverpool.
I'd be happy with a draw. I'll take a draw from the same power.
At Napoli, which
exactly.
Which is for me, Klopp's possible next destination. Because I've mentioned this in the past. For Napoli would be perfect for him in Italy, and Atletico Madrid would be perfect for him in Spain.
Yeah.
So wait, what did you say to Napoli, Liverpool?
A draw. I'll go for, 1-1.
I'm going for a 2-0 Liverpool. I just feel like I always go back to that analogy. I think it was Van Nistelrooy, but I think it was Van Nistelrooy when he said it for strikers. It's like when strikers have this like goal drought. It's sort of like when you're trying to bang ketchup out of the bottle and just won't like no ketchup will come out.
It all comes out.
And then you finally give that last hit, and then it all just comes out onto your plate, like the entire bottle. Like it just feels like that. Like there's just like there's going to be this moment of reckoning, and whatever team, I guess it happened like 2 weeks ago with Bournemouth, but whatever team comes along and like good team as well, Liverpool's just gonna have their way with them and just gonna absolutely destroy them. And I just feel like that moment is coming. I don't know when. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later because Arsenal have you guys in a month's time. So hopefully it doesn't happen then. So I'd rather it happen now rather than when we verse you guys. So yeah, 2-0 to Liverpool for me. And let's go Tottenham Marseille. That could be an interesting game.
Yeah.
At Tottenham.
I'll go for a Tottenham 1-0 win in true Tottenham this season fashion.
I'll go for a 2-1 Tottenham win. All right, I can see Marseille getting a goal, but yeah, I think that rounds up more or less the important games of the match days. And because the fixtures are so congested, there's not a break next week. There's actually more fixtures next week, but we'll obviously get into that next week. Yeah. All right, Caleb. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Hopefully there'll be some good matches for us to talk about and no controversial decisions come Thursday, Friday.
Away from the refs. Thank God Arsenal are in the Champions League. I don't want to hear another ref pod.
Ref. Hang on. Just while we're on the subject of refs. Just while we're on that. This was a decision that happened to me, like that I reckon was just absolute bullshit. And like this is a Sunday league decision, but I'll like once again story time with Nev. So basically, I was playing as an attacking mid, and I got the ball in the middle of the field, took on like one or two players, and then I sort of overran the ball a little bit, but I managed to get my toe onto it, and obviously there was a player in front of me. And he just sort of stood his ground. You know, in basketball, how you just sort of like cross your arms like that, and you just hold your ground.
Like the charge.
Yeah, and obviously because I'm running at pace, and I managed to flick the ball past into our striker, I knocked him down, and then I get a foul called against me, which I reckon it was really soft and bullshit because like I'm running at pace. I can't go left or right. And it's like, well, I don't know. What do you think of that? Do you think that should have been a foul or no?
I think you need to get some agility in those boots and evade the charge, mate. He took the charge.
Mate, I've got so much agility, or a lack of so much agility that like there's one moment where when I tried to take off, because the pitch is like rock hard because it hasn't rained at all. It is literally like cement. I hit like the side of my heel, and my whole heel is just like bruised now. Like, I don't want to put my foot up on camera, but yeah, basically it's like all bruised, and like it kills to like walk around the house, like considering that like the whole like half of my heel is like bruised. So hopefully it doesn't last too long, and I'm right by next weekend. But yeah,
we need more stories, or we need more refereeing complaints from the Sunday League.
But I think I told you, I like off air. It's actually really interesting. Like this is Sunday League. This is the second regional division. The refs and the sideline refs, the linesmen, they actually have like intercoms and like communication, like the earpieces, like.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But like, it takes me back to like playing State 5 in Victoria. Like, you'd get like for the seniors, you'd get like 2 resis players to do the lines. And, like, obviously there's no communication, like no earpieces and stuff. But like this, like, oh, and also before the games, all right, we actually line up like they do like before games of like, you know, official league, like the big leagues and stuff, and like the ref like just calls out the number and like and the name, and you just have to like sort of just show your number and name, and then yeah, we do like the handshake like before the game and stuff. Like it's for me, it's like it's really weird that they do it for like Sunday league. But yeah, like there's some interesting things, some cool things, some weird things. So yeah,
you just need someone blaring the Champions League anthem out of their car stereo.
Oh, dude! Wait, there was actually one of the lineswomen. Yeah, we had a lineswoman 2 weeks ago. She actually reffed
2022. Hey?
I think she reffed a women's Champions League game. Because like she had like the jacket and everything. I heard some of the people talking like that she was one of the refs or one of the lines people or lineswomen for the women's Champions League. So yeah, and she's doing bloody she's doing the lines for a regional state tour or whatever. Like,
hey, any extra work?
Huh?
Any extra work for her?
Oh yeah, like
she's happy.
Considering the electricity bills are like here like 5 times more, like you can get any money you can, I suppose. But yeah, anyway, we'll finish on that little happy topic. Hopefully more talk of Sunday League next week, or more story time with Neb next week.
And that was your Croatian regional football corner, Neb.
And then that's the wrap. So guys, thanks for coming along. We'll be back in a couple of days' time with a review of the Champions League. Thanks for coming, and bye for now.